I was chasing the things society said I needed to chase. The
Mm.
money, the cars, the house, the girls, the whatever. I was chasing it because I thought once I got that, then I'd be happy. Then finally I could relax. Then finally I'd be happy with who I am. And when my mom passed away, everything shifted. And I realized that life can end in a second. I could walk out on the street and get hit by a car and my life could be over. Now imagine if I spent my whole life chasing and chasing and chasing this thing, this ever elusive thing.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman's SHF Talk, Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk with Alex Ramirez. Today, I have a very special guest, which I'm very excited to talk about, and learn from. He's also a fellow podcaster, and we have a lot of similarities. So I'm very excited to talk to him and get to introduce him. But before I do that, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you guys who have been leaving comments, likes, reviews on all the major podcasting platforms, on the Apple one, the Google one, the Spotify, and to all of you who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. I want to ask you to subscribe, right? So that you are notified every time we drop another life-changing episode. But I want to ask you that if you like this episode, if you get some value out of it, if it inspires you to do something, I want to ask you to share with one friend, since this is how we grow, this is how we share our message, and this is how we motivate, inspire, and bless other people with some knowledge. And the reality is that most people won't do that, though. Most people never take the time to like, comment, or leave a review. Actually, 95% of people never do that. But the 5% of you who do are the ones who make all the difference. So to you, I say thank you. And today I have Justin Schenck. Is that cool?
Right, man. You said Justin it right, Schenck. Yeah.
And he's an entrepreneur, speaker, host of the top-rated podcast, Growth Now movement. He has been named a top 8 podcaster to follow by Inc. magazine. He has been featured in Thrive Global, and he's chosen as an icon of influence in the new media space. Justin's podcast has grown to become a top podcast that is currently getting played in over 100 countries every single week, and he has gone on to help countless people grow their brands and businesses through podcasting. I'm also excited to talk about that. He's also the host and creator of one of the go-to events for entrepreneurs and forward thinkers, Growth Now Summit Live. So I'm excited to talk all about that, man. I like your journey is pretty similar to the journey that I'm going through. So welcome, man. Thank you very much for being here, and I'm excited to have you.
Dude, Alex, you're a legend, man. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on the show. And I mean, hopefully we can say one or two things that inspire your audience, right?
For sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we will. So, man, the first thing that I do with my guest is this gets them pretty uncomfortable. I mean, it would get me uncomfortable. And it's to walk us through your entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
Holy crap. 75 seconds or less, my whole entrepreneurial journey. I failed miserably multiple times. I bought a $60 microphone in podcasting to interview some of the top entrepreneurs in the world. Got recognized for the skills that I had as a podcaster, and I've been able to grow and launch I currently own 5 businesses based around podcasting and other avenues. And it was really all about finding my passion and leading into my purpose, and everything else falling into place from there. 75 seconds. I think I'm way under 75 seconds, but that's really the entrepreneurial journey in a very weird nutshell. But I'm excited to get into the details with you, as that's where the gold is.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. We should dive into the failure. Like, what is the failure that you talk about?
Yeah, man. So, obviously failure was a common theme in my life, right? Like going back to even high school and how terrible of a student I was. At one point, I had a 1.7 GPA. And all signs pointed to no hope, but I always had this entrepreneurial dream. You see, at 19 years old, I got a job in direct sales. And that taught me that I can create my own schedule. I can create my own wealth and I can do my own thing. And I kind of fell in love with that idea of freedom. I was also handed a book called Who Moved My Cheese? And it introduced me to the world of self-development. Highly recommend the book to anybody. It's a super easy read. And it really kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, there's these tools that I can start to learn from individuals because they've written these books, and I was intrigued by it. Right. And so I went on this journey of trying to become an entrepreneur while also still supporting myself, because I had lived on my own since I was 18 and, didn't have a college degree, and really kind of hustling in the corporate world to really kind of create an income. But at the same time, I had this dream of freedom. And so at the age of 23, I launched a business where I put together seminars and expos that focused on personal and professional growth. We had some moderate success here locally. And then what ended up happening was we took all the money that we earned in that business and put it into we were going to do a big business expo. We paid a speaker a lot of money to come and speak at the event. We paid a lot of money to advertise and market it and all these other things. And we ended up selling 3 tickets to the event. And so all the money that we had made up to that point, about a year and a half of work, was all gone. And so we kind of shut the door on that. And so I then went back to the corporate world, continued to struggle through there. And although I did well, I ended up in medical sales and did well financially. Again, always had this dream. I then tried to launch an app. By the way, don't ever try and launch an app. It's expensive, it's time consuming. And then 90% of the time you don't even launch it. But it was this idea of like, okay, I wanted to connect people, right? I had this idea of an app that would bring people together, not a dating app, but a connection app that would hopefully spark a conversation with 2 like-minded people. And that ended up obviously failing and costing a lot of money in that failure. And then I had actually tried to start a podcast production and coaching company, and then didn't really have the tools that I needed, and ended up having to go back to corporate. The funny thing is that same failure was the thing that ended up getting me financially out, because I changed my mindset on the idea of what is business and who am I working with and who do I want to work with. It's an interesting kind of theory when you think about that, right? Like I tried to start a business in podcast production and realized all I was doing was going like essentially racing to go broke, because in the world of podcast production, the prices keep getting cheaper and cheaper and the time takes longer and longer and people are expecting more and more. And what ended up happening was the last job that I had, I ended up getting fired because they were downsizing. And I had just agreed to speak at an event. You see, my podcast took off first before the business actually took off. So Inc. magazine happened. I had people listening all over the world, but I was having trouble trying to figure out how do I monetize this to create this as my living. And what ended up happening was I said yes to speak at an event. This is before I got paid to speak. And I was like, sure, I'll be there. But then I ended up getting fired from my job. And I was one of those rich, broke people. Like I was doing well in my job, but I was living paycheck to paycheck. So the paycheck would come in and I'd just waste it and throw it out the window. And so I was kind of at a crossroads. I said to myself, okay, I can either go speak at this event that I had to pay my own way, my hotel, my flight and everything, or I can pay my rent. I decided to go speak at the event. And I went and spoke at the event and ended up going out one night with all the speakers. We were having a drink. And there's a long story to it, but I won't get into it. But I ended up having a conversation with a guy named Mike Kim, who's a dear friend of mine today. But he essentially said something in our conversation that changed my mindset about business. And I went home and I ended up making $22,000 in the next 3 weeks, and have never looked back again, relying on anybody else to pay my bills. It was all been me. I've been able to go on and build multiple businesses successfully, build a brand successfully, and so much more. But the realization of it was a mindset shift to understand my power, to understand the things that I bring to the table and how much it's worth, completely changed the game for me.
That was an incredible story, man. I'm glad that I asked. And like your journey is a lot clearer now. And then right now at the beginning, you mentioned how like you were just doing things out of passion and purpose. Like you weren't really trying to like, obviously, yeah, you were trying to make money, but like by focusing on like your passion and your purpose, everything turned out to work eventually, right? Mm-hmm. So I think passion and purpose with your podcast, right? So you were doing the podcast for a long time, then that. And then I guess you were doing your podcast from passion and from purpose. And then that allowed you, like, once that took off, that allowed you to it was like a catalyst for your success. So can you talk about the passion and the purpose which you used to start your podcast?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. So when I originally had the idea for the podcast, my thought process was I wanted to interview entrepreneurs to pick their brain in order to learn how to become a better entrepreneur. Because at that point I had 3 failed businesses and I'm just like, I'm clearly doing something wrong. Might as well pick the brain, right? Like very much how you utilize your show to be able to pick the brains of the experts, right? The people who've done it longer than you. And that was the original idea. But what ended up happening was 6 months before I launched the show, my mom lost a 20-year battle to opioids. And so at the age of 58, my mom passed away after, again, a 20+ year battle with opioids. And it completely changed my perspective of life. I realized, not in that moment, but over time, I realized that I was chasing the things society said I needed to chase. The money, the cars, the house, the girls, the whatever. I was chasing it because I thought once I got that, then I'd be happy. Then finally I could relax. Then finally I'd be happy with who I am. And when my mom passed away, everything shifted. And I realized that life can end in a second. I could walk out on the street and get hit by a car and my life could be over. Now imagine if I spent my whole life chasing this thing, this ever elusive thing, right? And then I die. What if I flip the script and realize that I could find fulfillment in this moment, even if I'm in my rock bottom moment,
right now,
even if I don't feel like there's hope. And so that's where my conversations went with these entrepreneurs. I still book the entrepreneurs, people like Ed Milet and Dean Graziosi and Andy Frisella and all these amazing people I've had on my show. But I had a different conversation with them. I talked more about their passions. I talked more about self-love. I talked more about those rock bottom moments with them. And the greatest lesson that I learned and I've come up with and I'm writing about in a book is that we define our rock bottom moments. We're the ones who choose where they are and when they are, because what had happened in my life from there, between being a terrible student, between my parents making terrible decisions, between getting fired from a job, all these things, having crappy relationships, was I wasn't defining enough is enough. And so when I say we define our rock bottom moment, I don't mean that you're never going to have hardships again. I don't mean things aren't going to get tough, right? When my mom passed away, what ended up happening was I went on a 3-month bender and I was blackout drunk 6 nights a week. And I was escaping and I was numbing pain. I was literally numbing the pain from having to face that, this person who I cared about more than anybody else on this planet had passed away. And I remember one day I had a coach at the time and she called me and she's like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "I'm going out with some buddies." And she goes, "No, you're not. You're going to sit and you're going to feel this pain." And that night was the worst night of my life, to have to really understand and feel the emotions that were happening from my mom passing away. But the next morning I had this weight lifted off of my shoulder. And it was that morning that I said, I will no longer allow outside circumstances to dictate who I become. And you see, that's what rock bottom moments are, right? Bad things happen to us or we make a bad choice and then we perpetuate those bad choices and those bad things. And a lot of people, if they don't define that rock bottom moment, it gets worse and worse and worse, right? My mom's a great example of this. She didn't love herself. She didn't think life could get any better. So she perpetuated that with pills. Yeah. And more pills and more pills. And towards the end of her life, she was taking upwards of 30 Oxycontins a day.
Holy shit.
Mind blowing, right? And so unfortunately, she couldn't define her rock bottom and make a shift in her life and her mindset. What ended up with her rock bottom was her passing away at 58 years old unexpectedly. And so when we look at that, if we go right now, it's my rock bottom moment, even if it doesn't seem terrible, and we go, this is my rock bottom moment, and I'm no longer going to allow outside circumstances to dictate who I become, that changes the game. Because now bad things can happen around me and it's not going to change my perspective. It's not going to change my goals. It's not going to change who I am as a man. It will allow me to receive it and go, why is this happening for me? Not to me, but for me. And that has changed the game for me so much. And I've done nothing but have amazing days ever since then, right? I'm not saying I don't have some bad moments, but it's always an amazing day.
Holy shit, man. Thank you very much for sharing all of that. And sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, I bet it was really painful, but also it was, the source, it's the source of your power. So thank you very much for sharing that, man. And I just want to take a moment to talk about that rabbit that, a lot of entrepreneurs that want to chase, right? That rabbit that they want to chase, which they will never catch, right? Of thinking that when they have this, when they have that, when they achieve this, when they accomplish that, then they will be happier, because that's totally false. Right? And a lot of entrepreneurs attach their self-worth to their net worth, right? To their to their achievements or to their money or to the things that they have. And that's a very bad way to have it. Like that shouldn't be the way, because then when they lose that or when they don't achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, their self-worth goes down with it, which just traps them in a negative feedback loop that is very hard to get out of, right? So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that, and just to make everyone, all the listeners, anyone who's going to listen, to just let go of this idea that they will be happy when they achieve this, or where they achieve that, or they do that, or they have the new car, the new house, or whatever. You can find fulfillment right now in this moment, and that's where you should be focusing on doing and learning, because I think it's a skill, right? It's a skill. Another thing that I really love, man, which was like being influenced by outside circumstances and thinking that everything is happening to you, right? Which is where the vast majority of the world lives in, right? Which is the to me mentality, the victim mode, right? In which, like, it's a very disempowering way to live, right? Like, you're living in reaction instead of cause, right? You're living in effect instead of cause. And people think that the mantra of people who live here is to me. Everything is happening to me, right? They're victim. And the next level of what I call consciousness is the through me. You said for me, right? But I call it, I call it by me. And that's what the majority of the personal development is focused on. It's focused to getting people from the to me mentality into the by me, in which people are able to realize that whatever they want is not going to be given to them. Whatever they want, the opportunities that they need won't fall out of the sky. They must happen by me, by them, right? So they take charge, they take responsibility, and they start realizing that things are happening for them. That's the next level of consciousness. And one of the things that you gotta give up is blame and victimhood, and you gotta replace that with personal responsibility. So I really love that, man. I hope that a lot of people that listen maybe go back and like listen to this again, because this is really the key. Like, finding fulfillment right now in this moment is the key to your success. A lot of people think that once they're successful, they'll get healthy and they'll start working on the relationships and they'll start working on like being happy. But it doesn't work that way. Like, success doesn't make you healthy, happy, and fulfilled. It's the other way around. Happy, healthy, and fulfilled makes you successful, right?
Yeah. And I want to add to that really quick. It's interesting when I talk about these things, and I think once people hear it, they're like, well, yeah, it's easy for these guys to say, right? Yeah. They're living their dream. They're doing the things that they want to do. But here's what I want to point out. And this is where this concept came from, is that I guarantee you, and I encourage you to set goals. And I encourage you to say, I want big things. And I encourage you to say, hey, I want to make $1 million, right? I encourage it. Awesome. But the problem is we then tie our worth to that. And so what happens is we chase it. Okay, cool. Go get it. I want you to get it. We get that $1 million and immediately we go, okay, how do I make 10?
Yeah.
It's never in the financial things. It's never in the outside things. It's about the inner work and the things where we can find fulfillment now. So the importance is finding fulfillment now. And guess what happens when you're fulfilled and you're happy? People are attracted to you. People are drawn to you. People want to work with you. People want to be in your space. And then all of a sudden it changes the game, right? Now, easier said than done. Right. When things are falling apart around you and you don't have the tools in place or the people around you to support you, it's hard to find it. So we have to make sure that we are constantly working on ourselves, right? I believe in the idea of 1% growth every single day. So what have I done today to move the needle just a little bit, whether it's in my business, in my relationships, in my wellness, or my spirituality? How did I move that needle 1% today to get a little bit closer to the person I want to be, and never tying worth to the end goal, right? Because what happens is people feel lost, they feel broken, they feel hurt, they feel damaged, all these things. And they think that once they get there, all of a sudden those things are going to be repaired. But we need to stop looking at our goals as an antidote to the symptoms that we have. Yeah. We have to start looking at what can I do right now to better myself. And so this isn't just my story, by the way. I've done over 460 interviews on my podcast with some of the top people in the world, and they've all said the same thing. Like, they thought that their goal, and they've all achieved it, but they thought their goal was going to be the answer for their problems. But really, they just realized, as P. Diddy said back in the 90s, mo money, mo problems, right? Like, it just really blows up who you are even more. And so we have to do that in our work. A good thing that I always like to say to people, a good place to start is understanding that what can you give right now to someone else? And people are like, oh my God, I'm lost and broken. I don't have anything to give. Sometimes an ear to listen, or a shoulder to cry on, or a high five is enough to give. So what can you give right now to make a difference in somebody else's life? That's a great place to start in finding your fulfillment in who you are today.
So valuable, man. And so detach yourself from the outcome and like focus on the process and who you will become during the process. And then also so I talked about levels of consciousness, right? The first one, which is the to me, the by me, in which you take your responsibility. And then there's the next level, which is through me, which you touch on that a little bit, in which like the through me, you detach yourself from the process and you just have, you let go of the need to control, the need to have things go the way you want. And you replace that with a sense of knowing, right? Just knowing, yeah, set big goals, just know that you're going to get there. But like if you see in nature, man, there's no straight lines. In nature, there's no straight lines. So like as you're going, so like for me, I was working on the Modern Gentleman. It wasn't going as I planned, right? But then there was this door that opened for me, right? So like realize that things may not go the way you want them, but just be open for another opportunity, because like that it may be calling you. Like literally you may have an opportunity right now knocking on your door, which you can't see, you can't listen to, because you're so focused on how you are wanting ways to go. You're so attached to that. And but if you just take a look back and see that, oh, there's an opportunity right here, that's going to like catapult you forward into what you want. And another thing, man, is that once you solve the money problem, right, you'll be left with problems that money can solve, which is happiness and fulfillment and relationships and health. So like right now, anyone like that anyone listening to this, if you think you have a money problem, if I give you $10 million, you know, I'm pretty sure that you're like, yeah, you'll go buy something, you'll try to fill up, right, with things, but then at the end of the day, you're going to be like, oh man, like this didn't solve the problem. So yeah, pretty cool, man. So man, you started your podcast, right, out of passion and purpose. That's actually why I started my podcast, out of passion and purpose, right? I had this purpose to start a movement of helping men become modern gentlemen. And one of the ways that I was going to fulfill that purpose is by interviewing men who are the definition of where I want to be and who are the definition of modern gentlemen, so that we can provide some value to the audience. I did that selfishly, right? For me to learn from them, right? To literally learn and surround myself with people who were 10 years ahead of me, 20 years ahead of me. So that way I could like collapse the time that it will take me to get there. But I also did it for a purpose to like help anyone who was going to be listening. And from the beginning, man, which I'm really blessed to say, like I did it intentionally. So one of the goals that I have for 2023 is to do this big event, right? And like this year is focused on building the foundation, which is a network of over 200 entrepreneurs that will all be willing to go. So far, I have 50 entrepreneurs that said yes to go speak at my event. So like I did it intentionally, and like it was really good. So you also kind of did it intentionally, right? With passion and the purpose to grow and to learn from entrepreneurs who were successful, because you've had failed multiple times. So this happened, and then what? And then so like how did things work out for you?
Yeah, man. So like you said, I started it for myself. And actually, if you go and listen to the first 2 years of the podcast, all those conversations were for me. Those questions were for me. These were the things I was struggling with. And I think a great point to start is like to understand, like, where are my shortcomings? People who are successful understand what they're not good at, and they do the work to get better at it. And so that's where it began for me. And then as I grew and put in the work, hence that's the most important part, right? By the way, write that down, do the work, and everything else will come into place for you. But began to do the work, and things started to fall into place, and my audience started to grow, and Inc. magazine recognized me. And then I had this big boost, and then all these other really cool things happened. And I was like, wow, I get this opportunity every single week to sit down with these individuals and pick their brain and build relationships and do all these amazing things. And it's been a game changer for me. And I said, well, how do I bring that to other people? And it was live events. And so Growth Now Summit Live birthed. The first one was in 2019. I think I made the announcement for it in 2018. And so in 2019 was the first ever Growth Now Summit Live. And I had speakers like Fabio Viviani from America's Top Chef, and Albie Manzo from Real Housewives of New Jersey, and New York Times bestseller, Sarah Centrella speaking at this event. We had people come from 16 states in Canada, and it was quite the undertaking to do. My goal was to sell 150 tickets. I sold 160. And it was a life-changing event for so many people, the people that were there who were able to build community, and for me to realize that, oh, wow, people actually want to connect with me, which was a weird acknowledgement. Yeah. And then also a cool nod to the friendships I've been able to build. And so my goal with that event was to always double it in size every single year. And so 2020 hit, and we all know what happened, right? COVID came and shut down the world. And really shifted everything in my business, right? We talk about how I already defined my rock bottom moment. So as things change, I'm not going to freak out. But all my speaking engagements had canceled and my live event couldn't happen. And we did some shifts from that standpoint. We did 2 virtual events. I did 2 retreats during the time of COVID. But I'm excited to say that Growth Now Summit Live is finally back in person, May 20th to the 22nd. So 2 months from now of this conversation. And, I'm just really, really excited to finally bring amazing people together again to really shift their perspective, to have them connect with the right people. And I like to say that my event's a 1.5 day long rock concert for entrepreneurs and forward thinkers and people looking to level up. And it really is just a ton of fun to really get together and make those connections with. And this year we have speakers like Nick Santonastasso, who shares the stage with Tony Robbins all the time, and Chris Van Vliet, who's a 4-time Emmy winner, and just an amazing speaker lineup and individuals coming together. But really what had happened was when we look at, okay, hey, Justin, you said you live in this passion. Yeah, my passion is to connect people and allow them to have the tools to create an impact in the world. What I did was I removed myself from having to be the person to create the impact. But what I saw when I did that, when I did that was my impact grew exponentially, because not only did my audience grow due to that, but then I've been able to help other people create impact in the world. And so therefore I have my hand in all of these individuals and their businesses, right? Like I work with some of the coolest people. Lisa Nichols from The Secret is a client of mine. And so we look at this cool thing of like, wow, I get to build out this incredible network of people. But for me, it's about impact. And so how can we collectively create a community to change the world? And so that's what I'm really excited about this event coming up in May, is that it's really about starting a community of like-minded people, which I'm calling the Growth Now community, and continuing to make an impact, whether I'm the person making the impact or the people who learn and get the tools they need to make the impact in the world. That means I'm pushing forward. And that's really my purpose in life, is to help people create a large impact in the world, to make a change for the better in the world. And look, as well as I do, the world right now needs it more than ever, unfortunately. And so hopefully we can make a little seismic shift in the world, May 20th.
Yeah, that's an amazing insight, man, because like if you see my Instagram, it's full of content, but very rarely am I the one speaking. My guests are doing the speaking and like helping people become modern gentlemen, but that's still helping me do what I want, which is having impact and help men become modern gentlemen. So man, I'm so excited, just to see you have like a very similar path that I'm like the path that I'm going, and just seeing how everything was working out for you, and just connecting the dots in my life. And this is not about me, it's about you. But I just wanted to mention, man, that I had a 10-year goal of and I have my vision board there with with a stadium speaking. But I had a 10-year goal of speaking in front of hundreds or thousands of people at an event in 10 years from now. But because of my podcast and the people and opportunities that I've been surrounding myself with, I'm going to achieve that this year. Right. So awesome. I connected with actually 2 times. So in June, I connected with in June, doesn't happen in June, but I connected with a gentleman who has a window replacement company. His name is Jefferson Rogers. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's connected with Grant Cardone and the Rear Bradley, and he's playing at that level. And I connected with him. We resonated. And, he invited me to speak and to be a speaker at his event that is going down this year. So like podcasting and just doing things, selfishly, but at the same time for other people, right? Like to fulfill my purpose has been truly life-changing, man. So, I don't know. I just want you to open my mind to and the audience mind to what's possible, and just your experience. You said you're running 5 businesses all based on podcasting and stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about that, man?
Yeah, dude. So so I went to a season of Yes during COVID. And what that meant was I looked at opportunity as it came my way, and I said yes if I felt it aligned with me. And so that allowed me to partner into some businesses that are one's still in beta, another one's launched and rocking and rolling, and all these cool things. But here's the thing, man. And I don't like to get too into detail about me, because I think people hear it and they go, well, I can't relate. I can't do these things. Right. And we can talk off the record about all the businesses and stuff like that. But here's the thing. I encourage individuals listening to go into a season of yes, specifically if you're a little lost. And if something feels good to you, be really in tune with how it feels. If something feels good to you, say yes, even if you feel like you're not ready. Because here's the thing that people miss. people miss the fact that they're perfect exactly the way they are right now, right? A lot of what we're talking about in this world is that we need to go become first. Well, how do you become without saying yes? How do you become without putting yourself in an uncomfortable position first? And so one thing I realized is we have all these limiting beliefs, right? Like, and it's funny, like as we start to set goals for ourselves, and by the way, I don't mean to shit on goals ever. Goals are very, very important because they give us direction. The only thing I don't like about goals is when you tie your worth to them. But I have a goal to fill an arena for my event, right? I want 6,000 people to come to my hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania, and fill an arena for Growth Now Summit Live. And so I look at it as baby steps. And so what I say to anybody is whatever goal you have in life, it's okay if it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I don't set timeframes to my goals. That blows a lot of entrepreneurs' minds because we're taught like, be strict. Like you're in you love the Grant Cardone world and all that stuff. Like be strict, do the thing. What's your time frame? What's this? What are the steps you're going to take? I don't do that because what happens is, say I said, okay, well in 2019, if I said in 4 years, I want to have 3,000 people at Growth Now Summit Live, because I understand how live events work, right? They usually double in size or 30% growth every single year, as long as you create a good event. But what if I said that and I tied my work?
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to tell you that this podcast has completely changed my life in ways that you could never imagine, and I would like the same for you. Look, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and the fastest way for you to level yourself up in every area of your life is for you to connect with people who are where you want to be, build relationships with them, and connect with them. The best way for you to do that right now in the digital age is for you to start your own podcast. And I just wanted to let you know that I have a free training that you can get free access to. It's called the 30-day Net Worth Skyrocketing 3-step podcast cloak track framework. And it's going to show you how you can start and automate everything in your podcast, from finding your ideal guest, getting them on an interview with you, and creating an automated content machine in just 30 days. By executing on this free training, you're going to be able to connect with high-level people, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem, in just 30 days with less than 1 to 2 hours per week, so that you can increase your net worth, your authority, your trust, your client acquisition ability, and your opportunity. So there's a special link for this free training in the description of this video. Thank you for watching and tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
Worth to it, right? So within 4 years is and then COVID happened and it shut down the world. All of a sudden, oh my God, all my goals are shot. It's still my goal to fill an arena. I just don't have a time frame to it. And so what I say is to people is get uncomfortable, because when we set goals, a lot of times our limiting belief stops us from setting what is actually realistic or even exciting goals, because we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're too slow, we're too fat, we're too old, we're too whatever, we're too young, whatever the case may be. We have these limiting beliefs, and there's I've done a whole bunch of study during COVID of where limiting beliefs come from, but I have a 3-step process to overcome any limiting belief. And that first step is to get uncomfortable. Do something that makes you uncomfortable. Commit to something. Get out of your comfort zone. Get out of that little box you've put yourself in. And sometimes that is going into a season of yes. And as opportunity shows up, stop saying no. Start saying yes. Trust in some people and move forward. And so getting uncomfortable is that really great first step to overcoming those limiting beliefs, because God knows when your back's up against the wall, you come out swinging, right? It's a lot easier to take action when your back's up against the wall. And so I encourage people that no matter what their goals are, depending on where they are now, say yes, get uncomfortable, and their life will begin to change. And so going back to the business side of it, during COVID, I got
the other 2 steps.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. So the first step is getting uncomfortable, right? Commit to something. Step 2, surround yourself with the right people. Understanding who those individuals are, whether it's 1 person, 5 people, 10 people, just make sure they're the right people, those people that will encourage you, push you, all those things. And then the third thing is take action, because nothing works unless you do. Look, it sounds really easy, but it's actually pretty difficult, because those 3 things are very, very tough. But before we even get to those, very uncomfortable, right? But the most uncomfortable thing happens before those 3 steps. And that's doing the work to find out why we have those limiting beliefs.
Yeah,
right?
man.
So when we look at the limiting beliefs we have, right? Like, why do you think that way about yourself? Mm-hmm. And I realize they come from 4 places. The first one is childhood. It could be something as simple as you're walking through the mall with your mother. By the way, to younger kids listening, because you probably have a younger audience, a mall is this place that people used to go shopping. They're pretty much shut down these days. But you're walking through the mall with your mom, and she runs into somebody she went to college with. and they're super excited, and you hide behind your mom's leg in reaction, and your mom goes, "Oh, that's Alex. He's just shy." That simple sentence can implant a limiting belief of you being shy for the remainder of your life. So that's one place, childhood. Number two, your own self-talk, right? You ask a girl out in 6th grade, she says no. And for the rest of your life, you look in the mirror and say, "Oh man, I'm ugly. Oh man, I'm not good enough." She didn't say that, right? But you start saying that in your head. And those are the things you carry with you, those negative self-talks, those limiting beliefs in your own head. The third one is society. Society says English is your second language, Alex. You shouldn't be successful here in America. Society says, oh, you're a minority. You shouldn't do something. Society says you're a woman. You shouldn't do that. Society said to me, your mom was a drug addict. Your dad was in jail. You shouldn't be successful, right? So society places limiting beliefs on us before we even open our mouth, which is mind-blowing, right? And so we have to understand that. And the fourth thing is the subconscious. There are things that happen in our life that were so traumatic that we've buried them deep down inside. Now, this isn't everybody, but we're finding out more and more with studies that it's happened to a large portion of individuals. And this could be sexual abuse and trauma. This could be given drugs as a child. This could be abandoned as a child. All these things that we actually have buried deep down inside. And we said, okay, this didn't happen because we don't want to acknowledge it. And our conscious forgets it, but it's still in our subconscious. This creates limiting beliefs. So that work that you have to do to understand where it's truly coming from and admit that and acknowledge it and do that deep work to understand it, that's really, really difficult. And then it's the 3 steps. And so limiting beliefs are a funny thing, man. And we all have them, by the way. I have friends that are billionaires that have limiting beliefs, that we all have them. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but we have to do the work every single day to try and overcome them, or we're never going to live, to our highest life and the life that we're meant to live.
Man, that was incredibly powerful. Let me take like 3 seconds so that everyone can digest all of that. Maybe go back and listen to it again. Okay, cool. So, man, like, you want to know what was like one of the things that was keeping me from starting my podcast? Because I wanted to start a podcast since like 2 years ago, and I started it 6 months ago, less than 6 months ago. And you want to know what was holding me back? A limiting belief. A limiting belief, man. A limiting belief that came from childhood, a limiting belief that came from self-talk, and a limiting belief that came from society. So from childhood, right? When we were little, I used to get told rich people are evil, rich people are selfish, rich people, like, don't talk to them because they're just like full of themselves. They're not going to want to help, right? So like I thought all of this negative things about rich, famous people, which I've come to find out, like, rich people, famous people, very successful people, they're willing to help, which is crazy. Like, it blew my mind, man. So like I would ask these high level people, millionaires, who were like decades ahead of me, would you be on my podcast? And they would say yes. And I would literally get the urge to self-sabotage and cancel the fucking podcast because of like my self-worth and the limiting beliefs that I had. And I was like, my self-talk was like, no, I'm not good enough. Like, what am I going to say? And it was a truly, like, I got uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable to be a 20-year-old kid who barely knew how to speak English and was trying to become successful and all of that. It was very uncomfortable to be that person and be talking to people who were 10, 20, 100 times ahead of you, right? But I started surrounding myself with the right people. I did that with my podcast, starting having conversations every single day with millionaires. Like, that changed my mindset. It changed the way that I thought, that I think. And like, I just took action, and it was really valuable, man. Like that beliefs, limiting beliefs, man. That's what holds everyone back. So like, really take this and like digest it, and you have to do the work. Go back into your childhood. Forget yourself. Forget anyone who like hurt you. And like, I've done the work. You've probably done the work. And anyone who's listening who is struggling with like fear, doubt, and you know what you need to be doing, but you're not doing it, or like for some reason you self-sabotage, nothing seems to be working. There's something holding you back, and that's limiting beliefs. And to get rid of that, you have to go back and do the work. So thanks for sharing that, man. It was really powerful.
One caveat I want to throw in, it's just really quick. Yes, I've done the work, but I continue to do the work.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to paint the picture that like, oh, everything's easy now. It's done. It never really gets easy, but it gets easier because you know the payoff at the end.
Yeah, 100%, man. So do you have a stop, like a hard stop at right now at 8:30?
No, man, I have a little bit more time.
Okay, cool. So you were going to talk about business, because I end my episodes with 5 questions. So there's like 5 to 7 minutes that I need before we end the episode. So I just wanted to know if you had a hard stop at 30 right now, and at 8:30. If not, well, you can like talk about what you were going to be talking about in business, and then I could go ahead and ask the 5 questions.
So what I was saying was I realized why I failed in business as an entrepreneur early and why things that I do now are successful. And there's 2 things. One, when I was younger, I chased money. And when you chase money, it eludes you. People see it immediately, right? If you try and get a client or you try and get a partner or you try and whatever, that money will elude you. And so when I went into the season of yes during COVID, I already knew that anything I say yes to has to align with my purpose, which is helping create larger impact in the world. And so every business that I said yes to during COVID was impact driven, was growing the impact of my message or growing the impact of others' messages. And so I would say this before anybody dives into trying to build the business or trying to do the thing, find out what it is your values are. And if that business doesn't align with your value, I'm not saying don't go do something that makes you money just because it's not the perfect thing, right? Mine's very specific. It needs to be impact driven. If not, I'm not doing it. But the reality is you can go do, and I know this is something you've dabbled in, Facebook ads and stuff like that, right? So like you can connect that to a purpose, right? So whenever you say yes to something, connect that action to a purpose. And in business, when you do that, it becomes a lot easier to make money. And actually what I say, if you do the work for yourself and you live in your purpose and you move with authenticity, what happens is that money will chase you versus you chasing the money. And so as you go into a season of yes, and I hope I've encouraged at least 1 or 2 people listening to this to do this, but as you go into a season of yes, make sure that the yeses align with your values. Even if you don't know what your purpose is yet, make sure it aligns with your values, and everything will become easier from there because it becomes a feel, right? Like if it goes off the rails, all of a sudden, be honest with yourself and go, okay, this is no longer serving me. I must move into a different direction. But go into that season of yes, but understanding your values first is an ultimate first step. And then those business opportunities will start to fall into place for you. They're not all going to be home runs, right? I've had a couple failed ones during COVID, and that's fine. But that's business. That's the game of business. But the reality is they were all purpose driven and aligned with my values. And so, yeah, I mean, that would be the main thing when it comes to business, is to understand that, make sure it aligns with your values, because you're not going to feel fulfilled otherwise.
What are your values? What is your purpose? And who is it that you are? Because when you do things that are aligned with that, things become effortless, right? Not like easy, right? But they become simple and effortless. They become things that are just an expression of who you are instead of something that you forced yourself to do. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my values are giving more than I receive. That is a value that I live in 24/7. I will always give more than I receive. The second thing is community, understanding that it's not about me. It's about a group of people moving forward together. And the third one is it must be impact driven for a positive effect in the world. So those 3 things are the things that I say yes to. So if those 3 things are in alignment with what's moving forward, and of course, look, I'm a businessman as well. Like I look at the value propositions, the numbers, and all that stuff. But those are the first 3 things. If one of those are a no, it's an immediate no. Even if it could make me a billionaire tomorrow, it's a no for me. And so those are my three values. When it comes to business, obviously I have my own life values as well, which is like family, friendships, all that stuff, and faith. And so, but with the business standpoint, it's those 3 things that I won't say yes otherwise.
Yeah. With my business and with my life. And I just want to like share my line as well, man. Have 6 with like go hand in hand, 3 and 3. It's respect, humility, and wisdom. So like when you're respectful, you automatically are humble, and like with respecting humility, that gives you wisdom, because all of a sudden you're not trying to prove yourself, you're not trying to gain validation, you're not trying to like you like, instead of speaking, you listen. So you gain wisdom, respect, humility, wisdom. And then the next 3 are motivate, inspire, and bless, which is what I'm here for. But a lot of people could be a motivation. Like if you see a jacked dude, he's jacked, right? Or he's rich. He could be a motivation, because like that's literally who you want to be or who you want to become. You want to be rich, you want to be jacked, but he won't inspire you if he's an asshole and if he's not humble and respectful, right? If he's like, I'm jacked and you're fat, or I'm rich and you're poor, that like instead of bringing you up, it brings you down. So motivate, inspire, and bless. In order to inspire people, you got to do it from a place of love, from a place of respect and humility, right? And with wisdom. When you do that, you motivate, you inspire people. And when you inspire them, you motivate you get them to take action, which is a blessing for them that will change their lives forever. And then the ripple effect just keeps on going. So
love it, man.
Those are mine. And man, we have a couple of minutes. We're gonna go a little bit past the hour, but yeah, I have 5 questions for you, man. Can I go and jump into the first one? Unless you have
Let's
anything
do
else to
it.
say before.
No, man, let's do it.
Cool. So the first one is, all right. So you're about to be 40. You're 37, you said?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll be 38 in August. It's killing me.
Cool. Man, you look like 24. Honestly, you look really good.
I appreciate it, man. I'm wearing a hat right now. There's some grays under there as well. So that helps.
How tall are you?
Age. I'm only 5'8".
Okay. So I just wanted to like see, maybe because it's you're tall, I don't know, but you look young. You look young. So
no, thank you,
really,
man. I appreciate it.
Really cool
It's
see.
It's genetics. My 92-year-old grandmother looks like she's 80. So it's genetics.
That's amazing. So the first question is, if you could go back in time to give your 20-year-old self some advice, not change anything or not be like, oh, I wanted to redo my life. No. Just give your 20-year-old self some advice, so maybe so that things will go easier. What would you say?
You are perfect exactly the way you are now. Look, hardships are inevitable in life. We're all going to face them, right? You can't change them, as a matter of fact. So you're going to face them. But I think the thing that most people miss, and I missed as a young man, is to understand that you are priceless just the way that you are, and you're exactly the way that you are on purpose. And so that's what I would have said to my 20-year-old self. So I would have found self-love a lot earlier.
Self-love, self-worth, realizing that you will. So there's an advice that another entrepreneur gave, which was, there's no reason to like try to defend or prove or get validation. You are perfect just as you are. You're completely worthy. And once you understand that, you can go out and create anything you want.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, man. Very powerful. The second question. So I have this framework. So like when I wanted to become like help men become modern gentlemen, the vehicle that I found to fulfill that purpose was like a high performance mindset coach. Like that's what I call myself, because that was like the vehicle that I found, right? So like I've dove a lot into mindset, and I've dove a lot into performance, and I have this framework that goes like this: mindset, map, motion, measure, money. If you want money, which is results, physically, emotionally, sentimentally, and financially, if you want money, which is results, there's 4 things that you got to get right, which is your mindset, right? Your map, which is clarity, your motion, which is your habits and taking action, and measure, which is like tracking and like KPIs and all of that. And once you have those 4, you'll get to your goals. If for some reason you don't, you got to go back to one of them. And most of the time it's mindset. So like the last 5 questions that I ask at the end of every interview are around those 5. So like I'm literally building like a course just by asking these questions to all the different people that I've asked them to. So the second question is around mindset. So like, what is one mindset shift that you've had that you could share with us that has allowed you to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, this is actually a huge one. And I learned it from the many episodes I've done on the podcast, is that the most selfless thing we can do is to be selfish. Yeah. We have to take care of ourselves first, right? As entrepreneurs who are giving, just like you are, Alex, a lot of times we want to give and give and give, but we can't pour from an empty cup. And so my mindset shift was, I'm going to give as much as I possibly can, but what is in my cup is for me, and what overflows is for everybody else. Cool. And so every single day I do certain tasks that I make sure I'm filling my cup, and they're my non-negotiables. And that was my biggest mindset shift, to understand to take care of myself first before I take care of anybody else. And that has changed the game for me.
Amazing, man. 100% agree. And just to like any parents who are listening, you got to fill your cup first, so that then you can give to your wife, and she has to fill her cup first, so that then you can both pour into like the marriage cup. And then you got to fill the marriage cup first, so that then that cup can pour into the kids' cup, right? Because there's a lot of parents, like they give love to their children separately, not as a unit, right? Not as a unit. And what happens is that like children don't learn what love is from the love you give them, but from the love that they see couples giving each other.
Yeah.
So like you fill up your cup first, then you fill up the marriage cup, then the marriage cup fills up the posterity cup.
Same thing, man. Self-love too, right? They see you, whether you're giving yourself love or you're talking down on yourself or beating yourself up, they learn those habits very, very easily and very quickly. Yeah, man, that's a huge point.
So no matter if you call your kids beautiful or all these great things that you think will make them confident, if you call them beautiful, but then you turn around and see yourself in the mirror and call yourself ugly, they won't learn from you calling them beautiful. They will learn from you calling yourself ugly in the mirror, and they're gonna think subconsciously, well, if he's my dad and my dad thinks he's ugly and he's my dad and I look for him, I look like him, then I might be ugly as well, right? So yeah, cool, man. I love that. So map clarity. So what is one thing that you do, man? Maybe a tactic, a strategy, or some kind of advice that can help people be clear about who they are, what they want, where they're going.
Yeah, I would say a big part of that is, and it's funny because it's about yourself, but to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people, right? That famous line of the 5 people you surround yourself with, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. If you want to know where you're going, look around and see who you're spending your time with. And yes, I can tell you tactics of to-do lists and setting goals and all these other things that I work with my clients with, but that is a very specific type of work. But the good place to start on mapping who you're becoming is understanding that who are these 5 people I surround myself with. Now, this answer is going to be longer than you expected because I know this is like your 5 rapid fire questions, but I want to go a little bit deeper here.
Go ahead.
So I loved Jim Rohn's quote, but I needed more clarity on that. So I actually designed the 5 people you should be surrounding yourself with. And I've given them all labels and titles. The first one is the cheerleader. This is the person that will literally make you feel like you can run through a brick wall. This cheerleader for me, and I'm going to give you an exact conversation I had with him. I go, hey, I'm doing a live event. I want 150 people there. He goes, you build something so epic that you're going to have thousands of people there. I can see you literally running out on the stage and 10,000 people are jumping up and down, shouting your name. That type of cheerleader you need in your space. So number 1, cheerleader. Number 2, the bruiser. This is the person that's going to question you, going to question your tactics, going to ask you if you feel like you're doing it the right way. They're going to say, hey, did you do the work that you needed to do? And when you did do the work that you needed to do, they go, well, you could have probably done more. Now, I want to make clear on this one. This person is not an abuser. They're a bruiser, right? 2 separate things. They're not beating you down. They're lifting you up by pushing you. That is the second person in your life. The third one is the softie. This is the person that when things are tough, they're there. They're the shoulder to cry on. They're that individual that is always there when things are tough, and they're there to pick you up. This also has an asterisk. This is not an enabler. It's the softie. So an enabler is somebody who's going to allow you to stay in that moment, going to allow you to numb the pain with drinking or drugs or whatever you numb the pain with. But the softie is the person who will listen, will be there for you, but then will lift you back up. The 4th person is a mentor. This is somebody that you're usually friends with, but you strive to be like them in some way, shape, or form. And I always say some way, shape, or form because my mentor is not a person that I look to them and say, hey, I want their money or their career or their whatever. This is Fabio Viviani from America's Top Chef. He's got like 30 restaurants that do $300 million a year in his businesses. I don't strive to ever be in the restaurant business. I don't really strive to ever make $300 million a year. That's way more than I'll ever need. But I strive to be like him, and he's a mentor of mine because of how much he gives. And I always pay attention to what he's doing in order to be able to give as much as he does with how much he has on his plate. Because as my plate grows and gets more full, I'm going to continue to give more. And then the 5th person's a coach. You should always have somebody in your corner that you're paying money for. So you have skin in the game that has your back and has the ability to help you grow. And I've had coaches in all walks of life. I've had relationship coaches, spiritual coaches, business coaches. I encourage all of them, but I always have at least one at any given time. So those are the 5 people you should be surrounding yourself with. They're like your front line. And those individuals you should always, and look, they're always evolving. They're changing a lot. But those people, be very specific with those 5 people. Put a label to them.
Incredibly powerful, man. That just blew my mind. It made so much sense. And just to like, just like to talk a little bit more about the coach. So one of the reasons that I think I've made pretty decent progress in a short amount of time is because right from the beginning, I had this attitude of like, I don't know shit. I'm an 18-year-old, just got out of drugs, alcohol. I have a kid. I don't know shit. And here's money. Teach me how to do it. So like, I've always had a coach for like my fitness, for my relationship, for like how to be a dad, for like everything. So that's a really important one. And I'm part of a mastermind in which they talk about family, fitness, focus, finance, basically the 4 areas, right? Just different message, different messenger. And I can see myself having all of those, like every single one of them. Like I can see how I have the cheerleader. I can see like the accountability coach that we have. He like keeps you fiercely accountable. and like he just wants to push you and see you become the best version that you can be. And sometimes it even makes you think that he cares more about you than what you care about yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we also have the softie, which is like the emotional, the focus coach, which you can tell anyone to. And like we talk about emotions with him, right? Which like men should not talk about emotions. That's bullshit. And the mentor, right? So yeah, that's really powerful, man. It was really great for you to like go deeper on that. Mindset map, motion, man. So what is one habit that you have that has contributed a lot to your success? One habit.
Just one. I think when we're talking about business, I think the fact that I created a to-do list the day before before I leave my desk for the day, I create my to-do list for tomorrow.
Cool.
So I don't work a ton of hours. Fun fact. I don't need to, and I don't want to. You know, I work to live. I don't live to work.
Nice.
And so whatever time I leave the desk for the day, 2:00, 3:00 in the afternoon, whatever the time may be, I create a to-do list for tomorrow. And the reason I can leave my desk at 2:00, 3:00, whatever, to go do what I want is that literally I sit down and I have the to-do list there and I just knock out the things. Right. So before I was even on a call with you, I was at my desk for about an hour and a half, and I got so much done that I don't have a ton more to do today. I'll do some things, but I think that habit in itself has created so much momentum in my business, because I just get it done. There's no lollygagging. There's no staring at my phone. It's just, hey, I've got this to-do list to do. Well, let me get through it, and then I'm done. And so I would say that habit alone creates motion for me.
Nice, man. Planning tomorrow today, and then once you get to tomorrow, just get to it and knock out everything that you have to do. Awesome. The last question is about measure, right? So measure, tracking, whether it is that you want to talk about it in business or you want to talk about it in life. Like, what do you think about measuring and tracking?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's a game changer, right? Like if you don't know where you are, then you don't know where you're going. You have to know where you are today. And so I do a number of things. Obviously, when I was a kid, I hated spreadsheets, but I love spreadsheets now, understanding the finances, especially, dude, if you're going into creating your own live event, the finances of money in, money out are so freaking important, because there's a ton of expenses when it comes to an event. It's going to be one of the most expensive things you've done, just so you're aware of that. But spreadsheets are huge for me as far as measuring where I am financially in my business. But I also do a self-check every single night before bed. And I ask myself, in my 4 pillars that I have in life: business, relationship, spirituality, and wellness, I say, have I moved the needle forward, or has it moved backward today? And it's a simple measure that I do in those 4 moments to say, okay, well, if I fell backwards, it's okay. I didn't fail the day, but if I fell backwards in one of those pillars, what do I have to do tomorrow to make sure I double down in order to move forward? And so measuring those little progress points in those 4 pillars for me are game changers, because once I found balance in those pillars, that's when fulfillment came. That's when success came. And so I have to constantly check in with myself to make sure, because as entrepreneurs, we have seasons of head down in business, and, well, guess what slips in? Your relationship slip, your wellness slips. So you have to constantly check in. So I measure that at the end of every single day to say, did I move forward? Did I move back? Either is okay. But we want to make sure that if I move back, I double down the next day.
Cool. What did you call those 4 areas?
The 4 pillars of life. So it's business, wellness, spirituality, and relationships.
Nice. Same thing, right? Just
you have a similar framework. Yeah.
Said in another way. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. And like I found fulfillment when I was able to get all of the other areas of my life that, apart from business, in place, right? And one of the biggest things that I realized, man, I actually had a reflection. No. Yeah. Like just a realization, like a couple of, like 1 month ago, in which like I was just feeling really grateful and really happy with how everything in my life is going. And I was like, I may not be where I am in my business. But because I'm able to find success, happiness, and fulfillment in everything that I have right now, even if I'm not rich, once I do get rich, which I will, right? Once all of that money that I wanted, and all that success that I've wanted comes, that's just going to magnify who I already am, which I'm really proud of. So yeah, man, pretty cool. And so yeah, man, like this is it. Like it was a really powerful conversation. I enjoyed it a lot, man. Thank you very much for being here. And I loved everything that you're all about, man. And so I bet other people will love everything that you're about, like everything that you said. So if they want to find more about you, where should they go?
Yeah, man. So 3 simple steps, right? There are 3 simple places. Wherever they're listening to this podcast, they can search the Growth Now movement. I always like to say, if they like what I have to say, click the subscribe button and come on the journey with me. The second place, if they want to come and hang out at my live event with the amazing speakers, and it's a great time, growthnowsummit.com. They can grab tickets. One thing I always like to do, I always like to give a little bit as well. And so if they can't make it in physically, although I say make it physically, there's so much more impact when you're there in person. There is a free virtual streaming option, which they can go and sign up there as well.
Free?
So that's Growth Now Summit. Free. They can free stream the virtual summit. All they get is Saturday, so they won't have the workshops on Friday and get the parties and the interaction. But they'll be able to see the main stage on that Saturday. So it's growthnowsummit.com. Sign up there. And then the third place is Instagram. It's my favorite place to hang out, at Justin T. Schenck on Instagram. Send me a message. I try my best to get back to everybody. And I'd love to hear from you and see what you guys thought.
Man, super powerful. I expect to see me on your conference, man, on your event. I'm gonna be there in May. And another thing that I want to say is surrounding myself with, high level people, with people who are the definition of where I want to be, who are further ahead in my journey, has been completely life-changing to me. And one of the ways that I did that was through podcasting. One of the ways that you did that was through podcasting as well. So since like you are the average of the people you surround yourself with, and like the fastest way that you can change those people that you surround yourself with and you talk to is by podcasting, I want to give a special link in the description of this video just for the Justin Schenck podcast that will take people through a free training on like A to Z on how to like start, grow, launch, monetize, and automate your podcast, right? So like free training A to Z just for this, just special for this link for this episode of the Justin Schenck podcast episode.
You're
man.
Good. Shank. It's like a prison shank. You're good.
Cool. To teach people how to start their own podcast and start talking to amazing people and fulfill their purpose, make them grow and all of that. And I don't know if you want to, maybe you have a free training as well that's going to make 2 trainings. So yeah, man.
Dude, you go ahead, man. I want everybody to learn from you, dude. You've done a great job. You've done a phenomenal job with this podcast, man. I'm just honored to have you to be on the show.
Thanks, man. So thank you very much. We'll be connected, man, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms